Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. There's been some news in Phobie. Just a little bit of news. Just a couple things that are going on. A few different things. One of them might be the new patch. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about a lot of stuff. We may end up doing some pack openings. We'll see how tonight progresses. Let's get to it. What's going on, chat? How's everybody doing? Steven, what's good? Ozarius, what's good? Yeah, we'll see how tonight goes. I honestly have not gotten to look at, like, the patch notes or the patch basically at all. Like, I went through offline. Karst had a game against somebody where it showcased basically all the new phobies, so I went and got them added to the collection. We can talk about those. I have not personally gotten the VIP pass, only because I don't know, like, what my real-life schedule is going to be and how much time I'm going to get to play, but I wouldn't be surprised if I get it. Can't wait for this Hunt Showdown stream for my birthday. It's your birthday, Luffy. Chat, it's Luffy's birthday. Let's see some point expenditures. I know you got emotes. I know you got points. Maybe some B's for the Luffy birthday. Big 3-0. Oh, no. It's all downhill from here, Luffy. It's all downhill from there. Like, there's no hope after that. Body starts breaking down. You're going to get weird pains. It's just not the same anymore. Yeah, the temple body that is... Yeah, no, exactly. The temple that is your body might need some repairs. GG. Yeah, there we go. You love to see it. Although they overlap, so now the sound is all fucked up. Oh, but happy birthday, Luffy. Happy birthday. I do kind of... I don't know. I haven't really felt compelled to play Hunt lately. You know what I mean? Like, for a while, I was like, yeah, I really want to play Hunt. And I just haven't been in the mood to play Hunt. You know what I do need to play this month, though? Is some Choo Choo Charles. I never actually finished that game when we played it last year. So I do want to finish that. We do have some other sponsored streams coming up, potentially. We'll see how that works out offline. But as far as Phobies goes, we did get 2 of the 7 new maps, I believe. I think it's 7 new maps, and these 2 feature the new tiles. I don't know if we'll actually get to play any games on it tonight. We'll have to see. But the new tiles are definitely interesting. The way the announcement was worded, but I have had this before. There's a 3rd? What? I thought there were 7 total new maps. I could be wrong. I could go look at the announcement in a second, but in the past, I've read too much into some of the announcements that the team has made and expected certain changes that ultimately didn't come. So in this case, I think the only new tiles are these Pokemon Red-esque push tiles. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I'm very curious how these will play out. I'm not sure how I feel about some of these maps currently. Like, I haven't put a whole lot of thought into it, so we'll probably take some time, take a look at them, see what our initial thoughts are. Maybe I'll separate those out for YouTube or something. We'll see. But anyway, there's 4 new maps in rotation right now. Oh, there are! You're right! Huh. And notably, this one, well, a couple of them, 3 of them feature the other new tiles. 3 with disease and 1 with poison, where these were not, people were worried that they were going to fall by the wayside, but definitely use them. Only Home Sweet Home is still there? Yeah, I don't know why Home Sweet Home is still there. I also don't know why in the announcement it doesn't explicitly state. This is not where I wanted to go. Like, it doesn't explicitly state, this is not it, map rotation, that the other maps are there. Like, you would think it would call more attention to it. Whatever. It is what it is. It's not that big a deal. So I have not gotten the new portraits, chat. I'm way more excited about these than I am for Jill and Ted. Although, based on past precedent, I'm pretty sure you can buy Jill and Ted in the shop now, right? Yeah. So these, I'm sure, will be for sale later. I don't know what the price for Jill and Ted was once they went up for sale, at least not offhand, because I did unlock them during the event. These are pretty cool looking. Hey, thank you for the follow. Yeah, those are pretty cool looking. I like them. Like I said earlier, I have not gotten the VIP pass yet. I probably will. I'm actually a little disappointed that we are continuing, and at this point, this is now the marker, right? Like, we will never see, well, maybe not never, but we are very unlikely to see a cheaper phobie bundle or even just purchase a phobie than this. It just seems like it's never going to happen. Now, Mummy seems pretty cool. I didn't mean to click on that. It seems pretty cool. Like, I like the premise, but I don't know. I'm not spending $100. It's not happening at the moment. I don't even know what is in this. It's only $3, so that's why I was kind of looking at it, but I submitted a game with it and I already love the phobie. Nice. Yeah, I did see we have a game review, which features one of the new phobies, so we might as well start there. But before we actually get into it, I have to let everybody know that, of course, I am part of the content affiliate program. That means the Phobies team does give me coffee for producing Phobies content. Just letting everybody know before we jump in, so that way you know what the story is. Speaking of jumping in, let's get to it. Ooh, it's on a new map, too. I love this background, chat. This actually looks pretty dope. Like, look at this. You get the little preview on all the maps, but, like, this looks pretty cool. I can see Renamon here already has one of the other new phobies. Wait, timeout. Is the map really called Coime to me? C-O-I-M-E? Or is the map actually called Come to Me? I just want to verify this and then we'll look at it. It is really called Coime to Me. All right. All right, let's get back in there. Let's get back in there. I love the new map music. I'll have to turn this up so I can actually hear it. I can't quite make it out because of, like, the animation sounds and stuff. So what do we got here? This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panic point map already. I'm not a fan of that. We need odd why is there a Morty? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So yeah, Snowball first on this map seems definitely feasible. There's notably only... This is a big map and notably only one spawn point for each player. And here it is, chat. Mummy. So you get mini-me's. So it's been a while, or this has been coming for a while. People have been asking about spawning phobies, for phobies that spawn other phobies for a long time. And I've always been of the opinion that it would be very difficult to implement because of the implications. So we'll have to watch here. Based on some of the other games I've observed and screenshots I've seen, it does not seem to be limited in any fashion. As in, you can, like, it doesn't limit your max phobies or anything like that. The mini-me can't move after spawn. But it has a movement. It doesn't let you move them? Now, this is interesting. Do you have to kill it with the mummy in order to spawn it? We're going to find out, obviously, in short order. Oh, wait. What are the stats on this? This is level 2 and it does 800 damage at base? That's an enormous amount of damage. This is a level 2 phobie. The mini-me does count to the phobie count? Okay, then I must have been looking at the game I was watching incorrectly. But you can have infinite mini-me's. Oh, they can't act the turn they're summoned. I mean, that makes sense. To a degree, from like a balancing perspective. Is there like a little scarab that's running on this, or beetles? I love that it's burrow too. I don't know why, but that's really cool. I do appreciate the more patient game that Renamon's playing. Although at this point, I imagine bad guys just like, I don't know what the hell to do here. Cars tested the limit. The number of little mummy got to over 10, which is a bit ridiculous. If that happens, like, first of all, your opponent already lost the game anyway, right? Like, they already lost that game. Yeah, if you get 3 mini-me's, like, that's already pretty extreme, right? Bad guy just... You done messed up. Ooh, that's interesting. So, it doesn't pull to replace. So, the sequencing for this is important, meaning that you'll get the mini-me, as you can see here, without worrying about the mummy like getting displaced onto where the mini-me should spawn. Which is notable. Ooh, we get a little bit more. Because like Renamon's been putting in some work. I don't know, like, what is this referencing, chat? Like, is this a line? I don't know what this is. Someone fill me in here. So this guy is effectively a 5-cost turret, which a lot of people were... They were not happy about Badside Manners. Or Badside Manners. I think I said bedside. I feel like Mummy and... I don't know what that one is. Are going to burrow even more Smother, Mother, and Grimes into the bad phobies tier. They do the same job, but better. I feel like both of them have niches, and the fact... like, this costs 8 keys. So, like, comparing it against Grimes is tough. Oh, Jaws? I don't know if I like Jaws, to be perfectly honest. I gotta think about it more. Almost all the new phobies are very tanky. Ironically, Badside is allegedly not very tanky. I have not done my usual analysis of, like, comparing all the numbers. Maybe I'll do that in a separate video, but, like, I haven't... Real life has taken precedence recently, chat, and as I've said on many occasions, and it hasn't let go, so I don't anticipate that I'm going to be able to do that soon. Little mummy action. Still being very patient. This is a lot of damage here. What is this guy? This is Snappy. So Snappy is the one that people were talking about being more excited about, I think. It's interesting. Here's the thing, though. I would want to think about Snappy versus Unbearable. And I'd have to look at the stats, but, like, is Snappy that much better than Unbearable? Badside Manners trash. Snappy does the exact same thing with 100 more HP, 50 less attack, and 1 key cost less. That, to me, on its surface, feels like they are even. It loses lob and 25 damage, gets base 2300 health. So, how much... I don't know. What does Unbearable have? 1800 offhand, like, baseline? Personally, I'm going to value the damage output more than HP, generally, but it all comes down to what are the breakpoints, what's the ratio, that sort of thing. Yeah, Quandavious, it shouldn't be that common phobies are bad, and that ultra rares are good. However, there is a level to that. Like, yes, that is a thing that happens. I don't really like the snappy attack animation, to be perfectly honest. I don't know why this mummy is, like, hiding in the corner. Just gotta get more involved. Also, notably, like... shout out to Halloween Town here. Even got the Pumpkin King statue, kind of. Yeah, the snappy attack animation is not great. I like the Badside Manor one. The Mummy one, like, is fitting. It shoots the bones out of its back. Yeah, but I don't know. It just doesn't... I don't know what I want to see, but it just doesn't feel great right now. Our hero looks like they're getting clobbered here. About to get bopped. Or are they? Because I see it. Let's see if our hero does it. That's... nope. It sounds like a sneeze. Is that what it's doing? Is it like sneezing out the bones? But yeah, without directly comparing the numbers, I gotta turn this down a little bit. Without, like, sitting down and actually comparing the numbers, I don't know what phobies I actually, of the new batch, that I'm excited about all of them, but I mean as far as, like, okay, if we sit down and really think about this competitively, where is their niche? Where do they fit? And I'm fine if, for example, Badside Manners actually turns out to be bad. The reason for that is I think having a turret at that key cost and then going, okay, well, this is not... like, it may not work out that you can have the numbers be any better. We've talked about this before, where ultimately maybe you just can't do certain things. But I also am of the opinion, when can you submit a game? Always. You can... there's never a point where you can't submit a game. The thing is that phobies should not, if they are common or higher rarity, that is, should not, like, power levels should not be derived from, power levels should not be derived from rarity. There is ultimately an element of that in every game that has a rarity, but the goal is complexity drives rarity. In games with limited, like, draft formats, that becomes a different question because you have to compensate for things being, you know, showing up more frequently. But the reason that complexity drives it is because if every phobie that was complex and had, like, weird interactions, like, imagine if Glob was a common because of the bugs. Or imagine, like, we had like, Mummy was a common. It's just way too complex of a phobie to realistically put it where every player is going to get it. Because you don't want people who just started the game to be so overwhelmed that they don't want to continue. It's out of stock. There should be a timer there, Quandavious. I guess there's not much to compare Badside to since there are no other 5-cost turrets. There is. All the other turrets, and I'm not making a joke out of that. Another phobie with the name Bad is bad. Maybe it's a curse, maybe. Are there any ones with bad that are good? So, I think you can compare it to all the other turrets because you can do the math of, okay, well, one cost up from Unicorn / Gesundheit to Stabby to, we'll call it Unbearable, or Snappy, to Badside, to whatever, you know, like from there. Bad Omen is pretty decent. There you go. There's one that's good. Like, it's absolute, by the way, Renamon just tearing them apart with all undead, basically. Not all undead, 100%, but close. Boxing, oh my god, with 1 health left. Lol. Couldn't you have killed him? Weren't you here? Didn't you start on the disease tile? Could have just killed him. I mean, you could just be going for the extra mummy points, which is fine. Or this. Got him. GG. Showcasing some new phobies. Not bad. I like it. I like it. So, chat, what do you want to start with? Should we start with phobies or maps? Should we start with phobies or maps? See some new phobies? Maps here. I'll put up a poll. We'll let people vote. We're going to do both. We're going to do both. How's my... There it is. All right, there you go, chat. The only phobia that I didn't show was Tooth Fairy that game. Yeah. Do you have Tooth Fairy, Steven? I don't know what that word means, Master Dark, so I'm going to go to Google Translate. Didn't Google Translate used to recognize the... Oh, deceived? Okay, because I was going to say, what it translated to, assuming it was French, does not make sense in that sentence. Alright, so, I think I'm kind of deceived by the new phobies. Like, Jaws seems better than Grimes, Mummy seems better than Smother Mother, even if I personally think it's not the same. They look too much on the same stats. Badside Manners, useless. Snappy and Tooth Fairy are good uncommons. Conductor is good. Giggles is good, but boring for a rare. Baaaad Sheep is just sheep, but more of a poison. Goon seems really good at least. So why do you feel deceived? What was deceptive about this? I'm not sure exactly why you feel that way. I don't know if Baaaad Sheep, the new sheep, is good or bad, to be honest. Or Baaaad Sheep. We have to remember to say it like that every time. Baaaad Sheep. Gotta be super obnoxious about it. Only 4 phobies really interest me out of 9. So, it's weird for me personally because coming from card games, it's like, we're lucky that 50% of the things are even interesting. Like, in card games, I play them competitively. And realistically, we're talking like less than 10% of the field will remotely see play. And at least 1 or 2% of that will probably only see fringe play. Baaaad Sheep is really good in my opinion. All right, we'll take a look. All right, so what's the end of the poll? Wow, it was overwhelming that we're starting with the phobies, chat. Overwhelming. 86% of the vote. So, looks like we're going there first. So we'll do a quick intro on this, chat. So I'll probably separate this out for YouTube later, maybe next week. So we're going to take a look at a few different assets, a few different facets of the new patch. Of course, we're going to start out with the phobies, and then we're going to hit up the maps, because I think there's a lot of interesting things to talk about, both for the phobies as well as the maps, and of course, both of them are going to drive the meta going forward. But before we actually get into it, I have to let everybody know that, of course, I am part of the content affiliate program. That means the Phobies team does give me coffee for producing Phobies content. Just letting everybody know before we jump in, so that way you know what the story is. Speaking of jumping in, let's get to it. So yeah, let's see what we got, chat. We're just going to go top to bottom, cheapest to most expensive. If I miss a phobie, call it out, and we'll come back. But interestingly enough, no ones, no twos, no threes. It would help if I was on the right thing. I realized, I'm like, wait a minute. I know that there's a 3. As soon as I said it, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Chat's calling me out on, yeah, the 3 cost is Tooth Fairy, which I actually love. This definitely feels like it's a rework of the Blinky model, which is cool. The witching hour is about to begin. I need your teeth. So if anybody's played Borderlands, specifically Tiny Tina's Wonderland, there's a quest where they have like these goblin enemies, but one of them's dressed up in a tutu with fake wings on and tells you that they're the Tooth Fairy and that you need to go kill a bunch of monsters and collect their teeth. And it's just like a really, just like everything else Borderlands, a really creepy and unsettling quest line, storyline. And yet it's told in such an irreverent and whimsical way that it's supposed to be funny. But realistically, it's very unsettling. There you go. You got Tooth Fairy. Yes, teeth instead of eyes. Which, when you think about it, the Tooth Fairy is damn creepy, right? Like, of all the things that, you know, like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and stuff like that, and then you get to the Tooth Fairy, it's like, what are you doing with those teeth? It's like, that's just gross. It's weird. But anyway, speaking of Tooth Fairy, I mentioned it earlier. I have not seen the animation, Ozarius. I haven't seen the animation for a lot of these. I mentioned earlier, but unfortunately, real life has kind of been kicking my butt, so I didn't get a chance to run the numbers on all these yet. But 800 health for a 3 cost seems okay. It is very mobile. 350 damage is not a lot, but it is a flying ranged phobie that's very cheap. Up to this point, what do you have? You got Murder Wing, which I think we might as well start there, right, chat? Let's compare it to Murder Wing. So I'm going to pull this up real quick. If you're not part of the Random Slots Discord, I do have a phobie finder where you can check the stats for phobies in there. If you can type it properly, there, that is. So baseline, we're talking baseline here, and I'm going to pull up Tooth Fairy here. Baseline, Murder Wing has 695 health, 250 base damage, but of course, Meatball Monty is 450. So this kind of, you know, it slides right in the middle. It is ranged. I like this. Murder Wing's regular attack is usually not something to write home about, but this is right around the range of turret damage. And keep in mind, this is dimensional, which could cause some interesting challenges for your opponent, depending on where you position it. You could put it, for example, over an abyss and say, all right, come get me, which is kind of interesting. That's just not going to happen, right? Okay, I see what you're saying, chat. But yeah, this is pretty interesting. I'm kind of excited about it. I'm looking forward to trying it out. I like the idea of this early game mobility because this means that some maps with obstacles now get circumvented in a unique way, or a more unique way. Just because you have this other option of, say you're on This May Sting a Little. Yeah, you could send out Murder Wing, and maybe that's even the correct choice still. Or say Exponential Decay. Or you could opt for Tooth Fairy for a slightly tankier, slightly more regular, like steady damage output. I think there's some options here. I'm pretty excited about it, and of course, it is super creepy, which is awesome. Teeth are creepy. Gin Sting damage, yeah. We gotta go slow because I almost skipped over stuff because I was on the wrong thing. I would be using Murder Wing with Tooth Fairy all the time if I got them, or just replace Murder Wing if it dies. Honestly, the Flying Armada, like, you can almost literally, well, you could actually go 100% flyers now, chat. 1 key is blue, 2 key Gesundheit, 3, I mean, you could have kind of done this anyway, but, like, you're building, the Armada grows, is the point. You have more options now. I think this has potential value. I don't know how much it's going to long term, but we'll see. All right, let's talk about Giggles. I think the lone mechanical, I'm pretty sure it's 1 monster, 1 dimensional, 1 mechanical, and then the rest undead. But Giggles here, 4 cost, dropping another turret into our lap. You love the Giggles damage and sound effect. I haven't seen these, so I'm very, I mean, I saw them because they're obviously in the collection, but it was kind of just getting them in here. A glass cannon turret. Yeah, you're not wrong. Only 1,500 health. So, again, for comparison, Stabby, who costs 1 key less, is 1,450. I'll be honest, I'm not sure about this. Let's turn that frown upside down. There's always room for another clown. I don't know about that. I'm not super excited about this guy. The reason being is Innocuous exists. And yes, this hypothetically represents more damage. But realistically, over the course of a game, I think you're going to get more... You're going to get more damage out of an Innocuous. Bowmangles is 1,550. I mean, this does cost an extra key, and that's the thing. When I click back in, it keeps switching on me. The extra key is not irrelevant. There are, though, plenty of times where I want to put a 4-cost turret on the board. So maybe I'm underestimating the amount of health as I'm saying this. Chat put the idea of glass cannon in my head, and now I can't quite let it go. I'm still... I don't know. I struggle to think of scenarios and maps at the moment. Not saying they don't exist, but I'm having difficulty conjuring to mind a time when I would not just rather have Innocuous. Other than, hey, I have to have more damage, which of course you want more damage, but realistically you're going to be able to protect the Innocuous better. You're probably going to be able to push damage better because your opponent can't jump it as easily. But a 4-cost turret, you know, like, say you're on a small map, and you do the Hydra strat, 1 key into 4 keys, or going second, you can go 2-1, or even just this on 1. Say you're playing Biff's Room, and instead you're going second. Instead of Stabby 1 key, what if you just go Giggles? Say, all right, this guy's going to evaporate anything that gets close. Giggles seems really good as a good damage turret, but he looks so boring for a rare. Same effect as Slayer, but Slayer is trash. The only not boring thing is sound effect. I mean, the sound is part of it. Like, the sound, the whole, as the art piece, the sound is important, as well as the actual visuals. All other 4-key turrets before were kind of utility units, but now we have 2 more offensive turrets. True. You can just march them up there, and obviously your opponent must respect it. I think Giggles can help in taking boss a little bit easier since it has very high damage. That's reasonable. Is it significantly better than Stabby? Probably, because you don't, you know, like, odds are the boss cooks the Stabby with the fire damage, and therefore the dimensional damage doesn't matter. I think for most of my gameplay, I'm going to want Innocuous. However, Giggles seems big enough that you may be able to just slap it down and dominate a board. Because it's just a lot of health. It's just a lot of health. Hypothetically. I mean, it's going to depend on levels. This seems like a reasonable amount of health, and if you don't... Like, Giggles becomes the priority target because of the damage output. If you don't respect it, it's going to punish you. 600 damage at level 1 is going to equate to a lot of damage when it gets up there, so... I don't know, I like Giggles. I think it's okay. Any sane person respects it, you should, or otherwise you're going to learn a very hard lesson. If you don't respect the 600 damage output, you're going to learn a very hard lesson very quickly. Stairmaster has 500 base, yep. This is a lot. This is a lot of damage. The key is going to be how difficult is it to take down Giggles in a single rotation and then not get punished. Because remember, at 4 keys, it is going to disrupt the Giggles players, it's difficult to say, game plan on small maps, trying to get it out there. Because you got to bank at least a little bit. But maybe that doesn't matter. I think Giggles has some potential. I think we'll probably be seeing Giggles. What do we got next? Snappy. We did actually just watch a game with a little bit of Snappy action. So this is one of the other turrets that's coming in. I just realized Giggles is the highest range damage now. Yeah. It's pretty big. It's pretty big. So Snappy is our other turret. Way more HP. Way more HP. This is your turret. You're going to walk this thing in. It's going to stick its fat ass wherever it wants, and it's just not going to move. Now, the question is that damage going to be enough? So, for comparison, let's talk about another 4-cost Undead that commonly has filled the turret role, and that's Unbearable. Only 1,800 health, same movement, Unbearable as lob, this is line of sight. But it's 375 damage on Unbearable to 350 on Snappy. And I don't know about everybody else, but I've had a lot of games where ultimately, the Unbearable was not pushing enough damage. Now, we already talked about Stabby, obviously Giggles, but Bow Mangles to a degree as well. This isn't, like, an enormous strata that we're looking at here. Not a huge deviation from the other turret's damage, but it is notable that it is less damage. I expect we'll still see Snappy. I'm very curious which one is going to yield a more standard play. As in, it assumes a more regular role, Giggles versus Snappy, because I'm kind of torn, to be honest. 2,300 health is just a ridiculous amount of health, especially since Snappy will be leeching it. But the damage output may make your opponent just go, oh, I can go in and just tank it, kind of thing. You know, like go in, kill other stuff, and leave Snappy alone. And clean it up later, maybe. And of course, Snappy not being a... The big strikes against it are this. 1, the damage is low, so as compared to, say, Giggles. Giggles can move up and get a single hit and be very relevant. Giggles almost does twice as much damage as Snappy with a single hit. Like, 1 hit from Giggles is almost as good as 2 hits from Snappy. And I just don't know if that is going to... Don't forget, Giggles is rare, so you'll see it less. I mean, yes. Yes. I don't usually take into account those sort of things in the sense that, like, I like to think about the game under the assumption that everybody has access to these things, because the ladder's just going to be a crapshoot as far as, well, they might not even have the damn thing, so who cares? You know what I mean? I agree that is a factor. I just don't know if it makes it meaningfully changes the discussion for a lot of things. As far as Snappy goes here, like I said, the damage, the anemic damage output is a problem. And on top of that, or it's exacerbated by, any map with obstacles now is going to pose even more of an issue for Snappy and less of an issue for Giggles by comparison, because you can just pop Giggles out, poke something, and by poke, I mean slap the snot out of it, whereas Snappy is going to poke its head out, and it's just tickling something, comparatively. Obviously, we've seen this range of damage, or close to it, of course, on things like Stabby before, and Stabby obviously has a huge impact, but Stabby has other factors. Snappy, you may actually just be able to ignore to a degree. Then again, a virtually immortal turret sitting in the middle of a small map that can just control a huge amount of area sounds pretty good, right? I'm interested to see how Snappy plays out. Just don't flip me over, please. Alright. Especially since he's undead, but remember, he's going to leech less because of the low damage output. And I would expect... Okay, so I would expect Snappy, even with this amount of health and the leech, dies in 2 turns worth of attacks, which is a lot. But if your opponent wants to kill him, they're going to kill him. Especially, so Snappy's probably going to be exposed to any kind of yoink, right? Because you're probably going to have him up there to tank. It gets yoinked. It's now too close to your opponent to run, and too far from your team to really have them supplement. And then he just gets blown up. Possibly. Possibly. I mean, I don't think I keep saying Stabby. I don't think Snappy is bad. I just need to see it in action because I'm very curious as to whether the damage output is just plainly not good enough. And even if Snappy is good in a vacuum, it might not be good enough to justify using over, say, Giggles or any of the other phobies for that matter. I mean, to be honest, like, I don't know that I play this over Ginsting. Because personally, I value the mobility. Like, it is huge. Mobility is huge. So, is Snappy worth it? I don't know. Do I take it over Innocuous? Also another I don't know. We'll have to see. There are no other 4s, right? No. No, the hiccups. All right. Next up, we have what a lot of people are labeling the worst phobie in the update. I don't know if I agree yet, but we got Badside Manners. Who honestly I think is pretty cool looking. Like, I think this is pretty cool. The attack animation seems pretty cool. I haven't heard all the sound stuff yet, but we'll see. So this is another turret. But it's filling in where we did not have any. Whereas we had multiple turrets and even got multiple turrets in this update at 4, there aren't any 5-cost turrets. So the biggest complaint for people, and I see this comparison, people are comparing it to Snappy or some of the other new phobies. And while that's valid, and I think that is part of the analysis, simply saying, well, it has 100 less HP and 50 more damage is not the end of the story. That's not the only thing to consider. It is, of course, important, especially when you're talking about phobies like this that are all about the stats. Why do I say that it's not that important or not as important as people are saying it is? Well, first of all, it is a phobie in a slot, in a role that we did not have previously. We didn't have turrets at 5. You could argue something like Stairmaster or Cyclops, I guess. I don't know. But we didn't have, like, the true 1 move, 2 range, tanky thing. 2, this is undead. It does have reasonable damage output. Again, not hugely more. We're not talking 600 like Giggles, but it can leech life and be fairly tanky on paper. We were just saying that Snappy, because of its low damage, may not be as tanky. Maybe this does a little bit better. The threshold for this is still pretty low, I would think. And we'll have to see how important a 5-cost turret is. I'm not going to lie, I'm not generally looking for that. However, I do appreciate seeing phobies like this, where it's, this role exists at other costs, let's have it at this cost, and then it informs both players and devs about the game. What do I mean by that? Well, when you have it, finally have this phobie in this role, you can determine, well, what is a reasonable amount of damage or health or other abilities or whatever for that particular role at that particular cost that is reasonable. You can, of course, figure that out ahead of time, but a lot of that's already done by the devs and they know the answer. For the players, it's often speculation because players in every game love to consider themselves more of an expert than they are, myself included. And realistically, we don't know until we try it. So it's all just going to be speculation until we actually get into the game. Now, my initial thought on Badside here, kind of what I said a minute ago. I don't recall ever wanting a 5-cost turret, because most of the time, if I'm banking for that smaller big map, well, I guess you're not really banking on a big map. It would just be another. If I'm going to play and invest an entire turn in a singular phobie, I want it to get up and get involved right away. And I want it to have an impact quickly. You could hypothetically, like, Badside on turn 1 on a big map, and depending on what the big map is, you might be able to inch this thing up and then supplement it with the rest of your team, so that way you will be advancing this more threatening turret alongside other phobies. But I'm curious how this one plays out. I'm initially not super excited about this one, like I said, just because I would rather have phobies that are more quickly impactful. But I also, as I mentioned earlier, value movement very highly. So one move phobies really need to be knocking my socks off right away for me to get excited about them, or more excited about them than I normally am. So we'll see how Badside actually plays out, but I'm not as down on it as most people. I've seen a lot of people crap on this guy, and I don't know if it's warranted yet. We'll see. I think devs did a better map and not as good on phobies. I think they're, well, we'll see when we get to the maps. Should hear the spawn effect sound. It's kind of spooky. I've heard the sound on this X-Pack is really good. So here's one of, I think, the only ultra rare in this. Is it the only ultra rare, chat? No, Mummy's an ultra rare, but that one doesn't count yet because, well, we'll get to it when we talk about Mummy. But we have Conductor. Symphony number 666. How appropriate. Oh, Jaws is ultra rare also. Interesting. I didn't realize it was. I thought it was rare. All right. Well, we're about to talk about Jaws, so after this. Conductor, Symphony, all map, plus 30% heal. Gives all friendly undead units an additional 30% leech for 2 turns. I will be honest with you, chat. I have no idea how to value this. None. 0. Zilch. It's a 2-mover, but it's melee. It does have 600 damage. It has a 3-turn cooldown with a 1-turn warm-up. My heartfelt thought on this is I really want to like it. I really want this to be good. However, there are 2 reasons that I think this is not going to be good. 1, I think this sort of effect, if it was good, is going to be oppressive. Like, it's actually going to be a problem if you went Undead Tribal, and by that I mean you just played all, like, you went turn 1 Contortio, turn 2, whatever, like, Cassowary, turn 3, Baby Snakey, turn 4, and obviously you wouldn't be able to do it this way, like Snappy or Blinky or whatever. You know, you're mono undead. And then you pump out Conductor. And you go, you know what? I'm just going to annihilate your team. So you need a couple things to fall into place here. For the Discord, I didn't know it was active. I thought it was, if it was passive, that would be busted. Like, that would actually be broken. That would legit be broken. But you need a couple things to fall into place here. 1, you need your undead to take damage without dying. And we all know how challenging that can be, right? So you need the undead, because then otherwise you're not getting the life leech. However, the life leech here is, because the baseline, like 70% life leech is a lot. If your undead can get 2 hits in, they're leeching an enormous amount of life. I like the idea of this. I feel like it's going to be very difficult to set up. And the other reason that I don't, aside from being oppressive, I think the other reason that it's probably not good is that the scenarios to make this happen are just very unlikely. I think. I am very excited about trying to set this up, though. I've said since I started playing Phobies that I want to play Mono Undead. If the Jackalopes were just a little bit tankier, chat. Just a little bit tankier. We could do Jackalope Tribal into Conductor, which would actually be hilarious. Because I think cassowaries are reasonable undead to do, possibly creep. But I think you need 3 or more undead. Maybe you could do it with 2, but you need undead that are not going to be paper thin. And then are getting value out of leeching the life. And I just don't know how many there are below. I agree with chat that like Blinky is probably a good solid one. Blinky's tanky enough that your opponent really has to put in the effort to kill it. Maybe Primate? Again, it's all going to be contingent on levels. But like Fetch is fairly fragile for a 5 key. I don't know. The Conductor itself is an alright meleeist. It is, in fact, a melee. It does, and somebody pointed out earlier that I think it has same baseline damage as level 1 Fetch, which based on my level 5, yeah, that's probably about right. I really like the idea of this. One other thing I'll point out with this is that in other games, namely card games, this would be considered a tribal lord. As in, it encourages you to play a specific type of thing, in this case undead, right? Like it's going to buff all your undead explicitly and specifically. It doesn't buff your opponents by accident, right? Yeah, friendly undead, just in case. I'm very curious what we get to see for the mechanical, dimensional, and monster one, because the next 3 updates I imagine we're going to get some form of Conductor for the other types of phobies. So I'm very curious what we'll see here. How will Conductor play out? I'll be honest, I have no idea. I'm leaning towards this is going to be bad. We'll get some funny back-breaking games where it's just like your opponent leaves your whole undead team barely alive, and then you somehow blow them out with Conductor, but the Conductor doesn't. The Conductor has a warm-up, so like they need to allow it to happen, and why is your opponent going to leave, like, your whole team decimated but not dead? I don't know. It just doesn't... I don't know. Seems like it may do all right, but not really too powerful. I want this to be good. I'm kind of leaning towards this is going to be bad. That being said, the uptime, once it activates, the cooldown and the uptime, like, you could do it a lot, or more than some other abilities. I don't know. I don't know. The more I think about it, the less I think Conductor is going to do well, but I am hoping that it performs well. I think it'll be cool. Or, like I said, maybe it turns into a miserable experience, because then just nothing dies. So one of the other ultra rares that I did not realize was an ultra rare is Jaws. Now this, along with Conductor, I think are how ultra rares should work. They're not necessarily overpowered. I mean, they may be really good. I don't know. But the power level is not tied to the rarity. The complexity is tied to the rarity. So, like, Conductor requires both a certain collection and a whole bunch of things to go a certain way. That's fine. Have that at ultra rare. Like, that's cool. It's a build around phobie. Jaws is in a similar vein. Now, Jaws, other than, like, blue, this might have one of, if not the lowest attack in the game, other than phobies that literally don't do any damage. 2,000 health on a 5 key? I think Hevo has like 2,300 health. What does Bluelian have baseline? Bluelian has 1,800 baseline. Hevo's 1,900? I'm going to double check right now. Plain old Hevo is 1900 health. This thing has more health than Hevo 1.0, which is notable because A, Hevo shows up everywhere, and B, Hevo is a mechanical who, baseline, that phobie type tends to get more health. If Hevo had 2300, I don't know why I had 2300 in my head. Jaws is like a better Grimes. I'll be honest, I don't think Jaws is good. Like, I don't know that Jaws is that great. Actually, I take it back. I just noticed that it has 3 movement. Why does this have 3 movement? Why are there more 3 movement phobies? The thing is I don't think it's easier to feed. That's the ideal scenario, Quandavious, but that's not even necessarily good. So you lose half the damage from a phobie that's about to die. Why do you lose half the damage? Because you're only going to get 1 attack with Jaws. But that's also a problem, Luffy, because if you're stalemating, you are giving up board position. So there's a good and a bad to this. 1, if you're maxed out and you have Jaws on the board, you're never actually maxed out, right? And you get value out of it. It's not like you have to suicide something into your opponent's team. You can just eat it with Jaws. So that's good. I think the 3 movement is what saves this. If this was a 2 movement phobie, I legitimately think this would be unplayable. Like, this would be the worst ultra rare in the game. How much damage is AWOL, though? So, like, say you eat an AWOL. You go up to, like, say, 600 damage. You've now created a 6-cost fetch with no boop. Great. Feed with the AWOL and Wiggy. So now you paid 8 keys for a... I don't know how much Wiggy does. Like, my Wiggy's leveled up. So 7... 13, 1400 with 1 attack. What were we on? 5? Yeah. Feed it to a 1-shot to heart? That, I don't know. Like, I like these sort of effects. I'm curious what happens if you eat a dimensional. Does it take damage? I assume not. I assume not. I'm on the Jaws train because it's a 3-mover. If this was a 2-mover, I legitimately think it would be unplayable. The phobie disappears like the abyss. Okay, interesting. No friendly fire? Well, that's good. I mean, that matters for obvious reasons. I imagine eating a dimensional will give you a tummy ache? Probably. Decide to make some cookies with random crap. Nut butter, oatmeal, walnut, raisin... What? 8 cost, 1,000 plus damage, 3-mover? Possibly. Eat Tooth Fairy on Abyss and both go bye-bye. That would actually be very funny. Whoops, I've made a mistake. Mistakes were made. Since this is a 3-mover, I think this is reasonable. This is reasonable. Absolutely with AWOL, absolutely with Wiggy. Obviously, anything that's about to die can suddenly, you know, move back and get nommed. I'm way more excited about Jaws because in my head I was thinking it was a 2-mover, and I'm like, you're just going to boop this thing. It's never going to connect with your team, and you're going to end up with, if not an even key trade, a -1 for the Jaws player. But with the 3-move, this thing can really get on top of things. And realistically, if this has 14 or 1,800 damage or whatever, what did we say it was? It was probably like 1,400, 1,500 damage. How many hits do you need for it to just be crippling? Right? Like, you just brutalize something. However, I will point this out. Because of the cooldown, it takes a bit of time to grow. It can, but it is a threat that will be there. But here's one of the counter arguments. Is Sasquatch good? Because Sasquatch represents like 1400 damage, doesn't it? I think it will assassinate some big dude easily. I mean, it won't on its own. There's pretty much no big phobie that it's going to one-shot. We were going through this when we were talking about Sasquatch, and I'm pretty sure, I don't think it counts added damage. What? What do you mean? He'll do 1175 if he eats Wiggy and AWOL. At level 1, yes. I was not giving a good comparison when I was looking at mine. It was not a good comparison. Oh, for buffs, you're saying. So, like, if you Gonzo, you're not going to get a permanent buff from Gonzo, or Stim, for that matter. That's a good point, and definitely logical. Better save a key and eat AWOL and Slayer? Fair point. I mean, there's plenty of food for Jaws, right? There's plenty of food that you can eat. You can even have AWOL out on the map, hypothetically, and then, like, spawn Jaws and then send the cat after it, sort of thing, or whatever. Like, there's ways to set this up. There's ways to set this up. You can't just eat a Kaboom and do 1500 damage. Well, yeah, Kaboom you wouldn't be able to because it has literally 0 damage, technically. Because it's looking for its base attack, and Kaboom has 0. The other thing that's notable about this, it's going to be difficult to chip this down. This is probably going to connect because you're gonna leech an enormous... This is like Mildred. You're gonna hit something for 1 billion and then leech a ton of HP. Who's gonna waste 9 keys? I mean, we were just talking about if something's about to die. Trust me, somebody will submit a game where they Jaws for game review. Somebody will submit a game where they have a Jaws that's at like 7 billion health, and then they just annihilate someone's team. So here's the counter argument that I was getting at earlier when people are saying this is better than Grimes. Even with 3 movement, I'm not sure that's true. Because Grimes advances your game plan. Every time Grimes grows, you're winning. Every time Jaws grows, you're losing. Jaws has Fetch his body, but a different head to me. Yeah, there's several phobies in this update that seem to be modified base models, so to speak. Apparently there's a cap. For what? For how big Jaws grows? I mean, yeah, we could calculate it. Just count up what the biggest phobies you can get are. And max keys. Increase damage by 10k max, just like Grimes can only buff by 2k. If you sit around... Here's the thing. Like, a lot of people are going to try and come up with these scenarios where Jaws has a gazillion health. Or attack, rather. And it's just like, that's just not going to happen. It's going to die one way or the other. Now, it has more options because it's 3 move. But we'll see. I don't think Jaws is as good as people are saying, my initial feeling. I think it's still pretty good. I think the tempo loss of having to eat your own guys is going to cause problems. Because remember, the replacement has to run across the map. So Jaws on its own will, yeah, it's going to ruin something's day, but that doesn't mean that it's going to trade key even or key positive overall, let alone tempo-wise. We'll see how it goes. But I'm actually looking forward to Jaws now way more than I was because I didn't notice that it was 3 move. Like, that's huge. That's huge. And then there's this one. Baaaad Sheep. It's bad. Actually, I have no idea. I don't know. This is... Like, what is Sheep baseline? Sheep is 1400, 475. This poison's the same. This damage is less. And this poison's the same. Sheep baseline does 500 damage on its ability. This only does 475. Yeah, the base damage and ability are reversed. I don't know. Somebody sell me on this, chat. 1800 health for a 6 cost. Klepto has 1700, so I guess it has the melee bonus of having a little bit extra HP. Oh, you're right. Its ability is 2 range. That's significant. Does that matter? It's a big poison. It's Flesh Crawler, but with poison. What more could you want? I want Flesh Crawler to be good. That's what I want. Honestly, like, this is better than Flesh Crawler, right? That's not super difficult to do. But, alright. 2 range AoE. There is a world, like, there's a reality where this sheep goes in, does its thing at range, and then it gets out. By the way, also an ultra rare. This is kind of a ultra rare. I'm not a fan of this being an ultra rare. However, I could see it being ultra rare so that you don't have like a ton of these running around before people get access to Clinico or something. Like, that's probably the reason. Blue Lion can still invalidate this poor dude's existence if you try to use him on anything but undead. Yes and no. The cooldown, which, by the way, there's no warm-up on this. Is there a warm-up on Sheep? There's no warm-up on Sheep. There's no warm-up on Sheep. Yeah, like, you could... Like, say a Blue Lion comes out. And I've used a lot of Blue Lion, obviously. And it's my answer to Noxious. But Noxious, what's the cooldown on Noxious? Noxious has a 2-turn cooldown. So it's possible that you can zone your opponent through their Blue Lion because you just pressure them enough by constantly threatening the poison. Where it's like they have to shuffle around to end up on the spas, and then they have to, because of that, they're missing out on damage because they have to juggle people around or whatever. Realistically, yeah, I think Blue Lion's still going to be a significant issue, but there are scenarios where your opponent may not be able to slap a Blue Lion on the board, even assuming they have one. Because you just manipulate the keys in such a way. The fact that this is range is actually kind of a big deal. This seems pretty cool. This seems pretty cool. I like this. We'll see how Sheep goes, but this is one that, because it's ultra rare, because of other scenarios, we'll have to see. That's why Blue Lion's a bad healer. I agree. Blue Lion, more so than any other healer, just completely invalidates stuff. Which sucks. But what are you going to do? I don't think I have any other thoughts on Baaaad Sheep. I think there's potential here. I think there's potential here, but as chat was pointing out, realistically, the existence of things like Blue Lion kind of invalidate it, as it does with any other poison phobie. This somewhat feels like a worse Noxious. It's melee. It doesn't fly. It costs more. It's unlikely to hit more things poison-wise, so I guess we'll see. So here's something we haven't seen yet. Goon! Which I kind of love. Are these supposed to be like, this is a foot and these are toes? Is that what this is supposed to be? Like, this is somebody's leg is his hockey stick? Do we get another Blom, chat? We get another Blom. 6-key Blom. I like that this effect is showing up more. It looks like an arm. It could be. It'd be a very long foot, but I have seen that, like, there's some stylized things in Phobies. It's a long arm. Fair. I do love Goon. I don't even have him, but I really want him. You really need a line attack. You and me both. I don't have a line attack either. This guy seems kind of reasonable. He's melee normally. So it's very thematic the way this is going. And of course, you get the Jason motif going on. I like that this exists. I think Blom is a unique enough ability that, like, we just don't... There just aren't that many Phobies, and this is probably the lowest rarity one, right? Because we have Blasto is an Ultra. Fire Dragon is a stress level. Beauty is an Ultra. Like, this is the lowest rarity one as far as I can recall. Meaning that more people will have access to the effect, which I think will have some interesting implications for gameplay. So we'll see how this goes. I like Goon. There is a warm-up. Cooldown's pretty quick. The fact that it's... All the other Blom effects, they're ranged. He's decently tanky too, and his line of attack can potentially leech lots of health if he can line up a good shot. Yeah. I just don't know that because it's... This is tough. Because you want to... The value is really in Slapshot, right? But in order for him to do anything else, you need to get him into melee range. All the other Blom effects can march up and poke something at range, and then eventually, if your opponent messes up, you Blom them. You can't really do that with Goon. It feels like he's going to be all in on Slapshot. I just don't know if it's ever really going to be able to mix it up without just getting annihilated. Because we're now crossing into the territory of, like, 6 cost is kind of annoying. We love Crypto. No one loves Crypto. And I don't know how much this will materially change what we already witness on Crypto. A lot of the stupidity that happens there happens anyway. You know what I mean? I play my level 3 Goon, still be able to do the mix attack. Oh, like your melee, you mean? I mean, he's fairly tanky. I'd have to see it in action to see, like, how reasonable it is to march a 6-key up into range. Like, pretty much all the 6 keys we see on a regular basis are ranged, right? Like, what's Rocket Man's base HP? $1,800, so way less tanky than this. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. And 2,300 is enough. Maybe 2,300 is enough and you can just walk it in. I expect we're going to see Goon. Like, Goon seems very playable. Like, incredibly playable. And as compared to other Phobies with very simple names like this, I think this just works. Like, I like this name, and it's going to be funny to say. I expect to see Goon in our future, chat. Is this the last one? Did we go through all of them, chat? That's even better, Azarius. He doesn't even use his hockey stick. That's great. So, I think this is the last Phobie, chat. Mummy, the bundle Phobie this time around. And we did watch a game from Renamon earlier involving this phobie. And I just don't see how this phobie can be bad. Like, this phobie is... It's pretty much guaranteed to get at least one mini-me, right? And then that means that this thing is now a 2,700 health phobie. Because your opponent has to kill this and the other thing, or, you know, you get value off the mini-me. From what chat said earlier, the mini-me's do count towards your phobie's total, but you can exceed your phobie cap with the mummy. So if you have mummy and you fill out the board with mini-me's, you can keep getting them. Or if you're maxed out, and then you can continue to get mini-me's even though you're maxed out. However, it could leave you in a weird situation where if your other phobies die, suddenly you can't summon anything again because the mini-me's are consuming spaces. That seems like a good problem to have in most scenarios. I could see it being problematic in, say, a Heart Rush scenario. But this is a lot of damage. It's pretty mobile thanks to Burrow. I guess it's kind of fragile. The last phobia we were looking at also had 23 and was melee, so, like, we're in the same ballpark. But obviously you're hunting things down. I am curious whether this is going to be a Wuffalo Will situation where we're all very excited about this, and then all of a sudden it just does nothing. I am leaning towards this is probably going to be playable. Like, this is going to be a threat, and you have to respect it. And not that other phobies aren't, but this combined with Yoinks feels like your opponent's in for a really bad time. Because you will just slowly build this enormous army of mini-me's. And overwhelm them eventually. Like, just sending that, yeah, it's only 400. It probably will get one shot by most things. But that means your opponent has to deal with it. And even if you just slowly march forward with a wall of these things in front of you, that bullies your opponent out. Use it with Jaws. Now you're living the dream. Now we're magical Christmas land. So you want 13 keys. You kill your opponent's guy so you can eat this guy to get infinite. I'm sure that will happen. Believe me, I'm confident that will happen. Somebody will submit that game, but I feel like that's asking for a lot to fall into place. I really think Jaws, just to touch on it again, is going to push people into the danger of cool things. Where it's, I want to do all these awesome things, and then you end up losing the game because you're too busy dirtling. Just doing things in the corner instead of winning the game. I think that's what's going to end up happening. That being said, there's no way that Mummy, or Jaws for that matter, do not disrupt your opponent's play pattern. They have to respect this thing. Like, you can't ignore it. That being said, we could also say that about Wuffalo Will, and we all know how often that guy shows up. Send mini-me's to trigger traps. Unfortunately, they will die. I don't think there's a single trap in the game that they'll tank, unless you're, like, wildly over-leveled somehow. We're just slowly getting more and more units with more unique abilities. I mean, we would hope so. It's important to have the vanilla phobies, the ones that have no abilities. It's important to have vanilla phobies for a lot of reasons, like legitimate ones. And it's not just filling out packs, although there is that argument too. It's not just filling out packs so that way you're less likely to get stuff like Mummy. Although you can't get it in packs right now. But it's also a matter of you need to have things that are just simple for people to learn the game with. And that's why I'm always been of the opinion that Phobies is designed around certain parameters, and I think one of them is not all Phobies are good at all skill levels, or all collection levels for that matter. So, for example, those vanilla Phobies, yeah, they might be okay if you're playing at Sum of All Fears 3, but odds are they dropped off several levels ago in favor of things that have card text like Mummy. maybe not necessarily this power level or whatever, but the point is that this allows you to have more options, more threats, rather than just simply my guy moves and my guy attacks. It also makes the game, of course, more interesting because you get more stuff. But overall, chat, the Phobies, I disagree with people who are saying they were disappointed. I mean, I'm very excited because it's primarily Undead themed. But I think there's a lot of cool stuff. I sold, or chat sold me on a number of Phobies that I wasn't initially excited on, or pointed out aspects of them that got me excited about them. I'm looking forward to picking these up. I'm pretty excited about these because I think there's a lot of potential gameplay patterns that are going to be net new or modifying old ones due to the new abilities and the new Phobies. It's kind of it. I assume this is the game. All right, let's see what Quandavious has got for us here. Ooh, we're on this map. I don't know what the hell the name of this map is yet, but... got little zoomies. So wait, how do these work? Moves non-flying phobies that remain on it at the end of each turn. So I assume, but we don't see it here, if the cassowary was here and there was nothing here, does it end up in this spot anyway? I assume the way the game works is there's only a single end of turn phase. So it checks, it says go, and then it stops. There isn't a second follow-up. You tried that? Okay, it doesn't work. One per, that makes sense. This is kind of cute. Notably, I still think a snowball to the center is probably the best play on this map. Just saying, at least at first glance. Because it gets there, and since this happens end of turn, none of it matters. Well, the problem with the way you were, if I'm understanding you right, Quandavious, is that there's no way they both would move, because once the cassowary ends up here, the cat has no way to move forward. Interestingly enough, neither player has elected to use these since then. So you can slide over and take this with a flyer. So going second, you could be like Snowball Murder Wing. But your opponent going first probably went Snowball, possibly. This is a little weird. Oopsie baby. Nice. I'm tired, chat. Oh, I'm wiped out. I gotta get up very early tomorrow. If Glob eats something on a conveyor tile and the tile is triggered, both will be moved or not? I think the bigger question is, does the phobie that's getting eaten get pooped out or not? Why can't I click on this? Interesting. Because I don't know if this counts as a displacement. Right? So, like, does it immediately pull the phobie out? It probably shouldn't. Either they both move or they don't move. Because even if it counts as a displacement, they're both going to end up in the same space and then Glob eats it again anyway. That's pretty aggressive there, bad guy. Like, doesn't this just die? Yeah, I don't agree with it. Like, this foul just dies, right? I'm not going to check because we're about to find out, but, like, this is just dead. I wonder if they thought it would survive. Because this is very much, like, there's just too much opponent there. Like, you can't walk anything in there. Oh, I think you're absolutely right, Azarius. Like, I'm confident that all the programmers are pulling their hair out every time they see Glob, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bug with this. Being with Akira, you're going to be getting it from this event because the experience of the map sees. Nice. Enjoy your Akira, so you can ruin everyone else's games. This is interesting, like the one mover this way. But like, again, isn't this erratic just dead? Hey, guy, that's 13 keys. That's 13 keys. Also, I would have put the Hevo probably up here. Well, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't matter. I was just saying, put the Hevo here so that way if the Murder Wing decides to get cute. The conveyor belt, honestly, is going to mess with my head a lot. There's going to be a lot of turns that are going to be messed up for a lot of players by these conveyor belts. Oh, my throat. Bad guy taking an enormous... Whoa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's actually 7. How many panic points are on Mount Blight? Bad guy making mistakes yet again? Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Boomer to save the day? What, from the conveyor belts? I guess. That's a good question. How is Boomer worded? Like, will Boomer get moved by this? Because Boomer, I think, explicitly said... Whoa. Bad guy's dead at this point. Like, I don't even care what plays they're making. They're dead. So, I'm pretty sure Boomer says can't be pushed, pulled, or swapped. So, I think that Boomer will get moved. / Raucous. I'm pretty sure Boomer says can't be pushed, pulled, or swapped. Alright, we'll just skip ahead, because, like, bad guy's just getting annihilated. Raucous doesn't care what. Raucous does not move, or Raucous does move? Little power down going on. I'm not surprised that it counts as displacement, but the wording seems imprecise. Like, if the tile said it pushes a phobie forward, I would expect Boomer and Raucous to resist it. But it just says that it moves, which I know we're splitting hairs here, but it is a different word. Panic point advantage, hero. Speaking of the bird tiles, like, look at this. Look at the claws here. And this tile is bleeding ooze. Here's the cat one. Do we have a bird one? We got a spider. This looks like an owl to me, not a crow or a raven. This, I presume, is supposed to be like a dragon claw, because notably Noxious only has 3 claws. I think his map style was called the Pet Cemetery or something. Yeah, I think that's right. I don't even know what to say about this. Bad guy threw away so many keys that, like, I don't know. Our hero would have to make such an enormous and egregious set of mistakes to actually lose this game. I mean, bad guys out of keys. Our hero has 8 keys, a pretty large panic point advantage, and they have a better board position. They might even have a heart health lead. Ironically, these two tiles... Well, maybe not ironically, but, like, these two tiles were the end of bad guy. They're complete bane the entire time. I don't think there's anything to be done for bad guy here. Obviously, this is dead. I just don't know if you have enough damage to collapse on the Zappy right now, but it's possible. 2 hits, 1 hit, 1 hit, 1 hit, 1 hit. I mean, Oopsie Baby's kind of getting its ass kicked, but it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, that Zappy's dead. Down goes Zappy, and so does bad guy. Like, there's no hope from here. Got him. And then there was Inoculus. GG. High five for the funsies. For the fun of it. Not bad. Not bad. All right, chat. Let's talk about some new maps. You needed those points? Fair enough. So we, of course, don't have all of the new maps. But we do, in fact, have 4 of them, which is way more than I expected. I think this is the most we've gotten from new map deployments at a single time, you know, right after the update. So this is pretty cool. I'm glad that the team chose to do this. It turns out, per the devs, they mentioned this in the official Phobies Discord before, that they do curate the maps. It sounds like they manually decide rotation to rotation which ones are going to be there. And if that is the case, shout out to the devs for doing this, because I think it's important to get the new maps in there. And I think they could rotate out, you know, Exponential Decay, Floor's Lava, Carousel, and Crypto next week and bring in the other new maps. Although I think we don't have enough to do a full rotation of new maps, but whatever. We'll get pretty close. So first one up. Transaction declined. We do see the repeat of the conveyor tiles. We do have healing spas, and I will say, so there's a lot of things I like about this map. Not just the new tiles, but we have healing spas, but they are in a position that's kind of like out of the way. It might not be too far out of the way, because you can reach them from virtually everywhere. I mean, if you're down here on the bottom row, you won't be able to get up there unless you're all the way in the back, or here, I guess. So like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm assuming you're not like Snowball or something. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as long as you're not like here or farther forward, you can reach it. It may be a little too close. The important thing is to get healing spas so that they are there's actually a decision about putting something on the spa. It's pretty far away, so we'll give it the benefit of the doubt for now. The other interesting point is that these hearts are so close. They are so close. Notably, something right here, 3 Rangers can poke this. Seems kind of relevant, right? Are you actually going to be able to? This is going to be interesting, because odds are your opponent has some kind of concave, more convex setup here. And they can jump on each of these tiles. You obviously have, lobs from the top or the bottom. Gravedigger plays can lock your opponent out in very uncomfortable ways, like a terraform here or here can block them out. However, your opponent can respond with a terraform and break this immediately. So it's not as though you completely lock them out unless they're like out of keys and then you completely lock them out, sort of thing. Blom effects along with 3 Rangers mean you can hit the heart. Like your opponent decides to park somebody here, you move up, you blom, and obviously we have Goon now, so Goon can represent a more common blom effect, potentially. Notably, all 3 of these, if you're on any of these points, you can immediately jump onto the heart from all 3. Like, if you decide now is go time, you can just go. You don't really have to, your opponent's going to be right there, because as Chad is pointing out, this map is very cramped. It is very claustrophobic. There's oddly a lot of staging area behind the heart, which is new. I'm very curious to see how this map plays out, because this does feature a lot of interesting things. Funnily enough, if I had a boss encounter on here, you're going to see boss every time. Is it possible to make a map that boss is bad on? Because of the way your fired works, it's always going to catch multiple things. And if not, it certainly locks your opponent off from an area for a period of time. So Rush might not be a viable play. Why, you think this map is going to be stalematey? I'm not sure. And I'm not saying that to disagree. I'm just legitimately unsure. The conveyor belt makes things a little weird. So, you can immediately claim, if you're blue, you claim the bottom. If you're orange, you claim the top. You're away tile. But that is exposed towards your opponent's side of the board. So, say they go first. You send Cassowary to here. You send your 1 key to here and claim this point. Boss is bad on the once lore? Fair. So, I think this might just be a tough play. It's going to be tough for player 2 initially, because, you can't immediately claim this point safely. You're just going to incinerate a key if your opponent puts anything here. And even if they go Corn 1 key, they could follow up with Jar, and Jar plus Corn kills a lot of 1 keys. It depends on levels, of course, and there are some that will survive it. But a Cassowary 1 key means that you can't take this point. I guess maybe you could with Boomer, and then potentially your follow-up, if you sent your 2 key to, here, maybe then you kill the Cassowary that gets pulled by the Boomer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a snowball map. Oh, you're right. Boomer won't move. We just established that. Boomer won't move off the conveyor belt, so you can't send Boomer there anyway. Can't send Boomer there anyway, so I guess you'd have to do it with Bachelor. Which would then die and get pulled, as compared to Boomer, who may live. You can snowball to the center. Droney, if you prefer, I guess. But if you send Droney, it's going to get incinerated. This, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is, if they snowball on 1 going first, you can do the 1 key snowball response on 2 to prevent your snowball from getting hit. But presumably their snowball just fireballs and then ends up here. So you're going to have the Eternal Monday situation all over again. Speaking of which, there's no stims. Jar here covers 1, 2, 3. Obviously here. A jar can cover these 2 points. So, like, the center point and your close point pretty safely. Cassowary to the bottom as player 1. Like, Cassowary down here. I guess. As player 1. I don't know. I don't disagree that this could get stalematey. Because there aren't a lot of... I'm like, what's the other map that... There are other maps that feel like this, where it's... You have to funnel through these choke points to get at your opponent, and therefore you end up in this really bad spot. Mini-me's don't count towards phobie limit because I'm able to spawn a phobie with 4 phobies in a mini-me? Interesting. Weird. I wonder what it's intended to be, because it's entirely possible it's a bug, but I don't know. Most likely that's how it's supposed to work, but... So... Yeah, I could see this getting stalematey. Teen Spirit and Carousel have similar double obstacle setup in the map, in the middle. Carousel doesn't have a double obstacle, does it? Ah, it does. I was thinking of the other one. Yeah, Carousel is the map I was thinking of. I just didn't, like, in my mind, I couldn't picture the tile set. I'm not a huge fan of Carousel. I don't know how much this changes the formula, because Carousel... We'll leave it here so you can kind of, like, eyeball the difference. Teen Spirit is more similar because of the different symmetry. Possibly. Give me 1 second, chat. So here's Teen Spirit, so we can have a comparison. I see what you're talking about. So it's kind of like... Yeah, they moved the hearts up 1 space. I mean, they knocked out... There are other changes, but, like... Obviously, they removed the... or they replaced the obstacles with healing spas and then shifted them from here to here. But this is very similar to Teen Spirit. I see what you're saying. Carousel feels like it can get very stalematey. Teen Spirit, I feel like it's not as bad, but can still do it. My biggest question is, can this map change up the dynamic of stall the game out, play 1 9 key, see who can manage their big phobie better? Notably, you're not going to get a good Honey Bear play here either. Because, like, you'd have to break this one to get 2 tiles safely, and you probably don't want to puke on this one. Like, occupying this is going to be difficult if you're player 2, or this one if you're player 1. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I should have had this set up before. This feels like a better Teen Spirit. I don't know if it's going to be better. I legitimately don't know. I can't decide right now. Like, I don't think Teen Spirit is a bad map. I don't think Teen Spirit is a bad map. But the problem is, Mud will turn off the move tiles, though. It will, but is that really... So, like, you break this block, let's say. I need to make this bigger so you can see it. Like, say you break this block. Imagine using Charon to counter the new tiles. Not on this map, but I don't hate the idea in general. That was something I was going to touch on when we got to the other maps. Like, you break this block, and it's like, okay, you turn this off. Great. I don't know if that gets you anywhere, because like I said, I don't think occupying this as player 2 is going to work. Like, that's just going to be really hard. I think there's potential for this map. I think I'm leaning towards it will be more stalematey because I think that it's going to be difficult to ever wrest control from these. Like, trying to get these panic points outside of just sending 1 keys is going to be difficult. That being said, well, so defensively, you could be here, 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 here. There's actually, like, a lot of spaces, because you could be a 3-ranger. Like, say Innocuous is here, and then any ranged phobie is here. And then you put, like, something else here, and it's like, all right, you got 2 out of 3 covered. Your opponent has to commit into you. How are you doing that? You're probably not, right? This one's going to be interesting. We'll see. What do we got for other maps, chat? What do we got for other maps? Let's take a look at Morbidity. Morbidity. So, this is the one that we were just watching a game on. And I think this one's pretty interesting. There are a lot of panic points. So we have 7 panic points. So you can definitely pressure your opponent. And once again, I like to point... I didn't point out on the last one, but I like when there's odd number of panic points. The movement here is kind of cute. As we pointed out in the game we observed, you can't go put a guy here and then it slides them to here in 1 turn. It only moves them 1 tile. It's probably for the best. These are definitely going to make somebody's life very challenging, though. To the point that I have to wonder, is it worth just simply breaking these blocks with Gravedigger? Because otherwise, I could see a point in the game where, like, you just don't want your guys to get shoved up here by the tiles. Yeah, they're not going to get shoved up there all the way, but getting moved at all could be problematic. Maybe that won't come up, but notably, there's some cute points where, like, here and here, you can lob to the center. Notably, you can fly Murder Wing or the Tooth Fairy to these spots. You can get to the center with a snowball. This goes 1, 2, 3, 4, so flyers can now make it to the corner. Just saying Charon first, obviously. I mean, this might be a Charon thing if you really want to turn that off. I don't know how much that matters. But, like, yeah, it's a thing. There are notably Abyss tiles, and I think that this is a reasonable boop map. Because, especially given these, you can't just... I mean, you can, but it requires somebody here. You can't just stick somebody on this front... the front push tile. Because if you do, they're going to end up here, or here, respectively, and then possibly in range of your opponent's stuff. So if you hang out here with a lobber, and you can't hang out here, obviously, like you're stuck on this side. You're stuck on this line. or here for that matter, to try and shell the center point. So displacement effects are definitely going to be a thing. Obviously, we're going to get mechs to account for these. Phobie on the first conveyor with a melee phobie will be able to attack a phobie that tries to claim the center panic point. So phobie, so you're saying they go 1, 2, 3, 4, they get pushed to here, and then if somebody sends it out, you can claim it? Yes. I agree, but that only matters later in the game, unless your opponent doesn't go snowball first, I guess, or something like that. And even then, it's maybe your phobie is just getting sent to its doom. You know what I mean? Because if your opponent has a concave here, they might be able to just collapse on it and kill it. Obviously, a tractor could get weird here, depending on how the polls go. That's why I think a Gravedigger to break these blocks, maybe this one at the start, this one later on, all of those could be valuable. Could even break this if you really wanted a range guy to shell this, but that's probably going to be irrelevant. I expect this map to play a lot like Exponential Decay. That's the vibe I'm getting from it, which is interesting because I believe that's also in the pool. So we have this, which is sort of like Transaction Declined. This, which is kind of like Morbidity. And I know we spent a lot of time talking about Teen Spirit, but like, it's the map we have. I like the look of this map. I think maybe this is going to be a good boop map, like I said. Either you could boop things, you know, set it up to boop them here because, you know, you put Repeller here. It ends up here. You move back, and then it's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This one could end up on the disease tile. This could end up on a disease tile. This one just gets booped back. So, like, there's the potential that you could displace somebody into the disease tiles. Or, of course, you know, these are still there, too. Like, there's the potential for those plays to happen. And I think they're all reasonable. I don't know. I like this map. I think I'm looking forward to trying this one. So, next one up, we haven't seen yet. No, this is the one that we watched Renamon on. This is the one we watched Renamon on. So, another map with an even set of panic points. Not a fan of that. That's all right. We do get another large swath of disease tiles. Notably, as always, well, maybe not always, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Guess what? Everybody's favorite good boy caps that right off the bat. And then, of course, can just swing from here to here or here. This kind of reminds me of Hold Still to a degree just because of that play. This reminds you of Noughts and Crosses. It feels, yeah, a more squat Noughts and Crosses. And you're right. I meant to say that when we were watching the replay, that this reminds me of Noughts and Crosses, although no Abyss here. You have blocks instead of the Abyss. So, of course, as we saw in the game, you can get some Gravediggers here. And we'll add some eyes, chat. So waiting on an up and down map, what, that the conveyor belts go up and down? Reminds me more of Magnificent. That's the map. I said Hold Still, but in my head I was thinking Magnificent. I said the wrong map, but yes. That's the one where you can hypothetically take your opponent, going first, take your opponent's thing with Panic Point with Snowball. Oh, like the vaults are on the very top and bottom. That would be interesting. What else do we have on this map? This looks asymmetrical, but it's not. Enclosed Panic Point at the bottom and an open An open spot at the top with fairly exposed hearts, but it's more cramped at the top than knots and crosses. Yes. You won't get... Knots and crosses you can reasonably siege. Here, it's going to be very difficult to, like, get in here. But your opponent is not necessarily going to... Like, this might be... What was that other new map with the disease tiles that was very heart-rushy? Where your opponent, like, once they commit, it's kind of difficult to defend. It could be difficult to defend here because you have to send your team through disease tiles. And they're not necessarily going to be able to... Like, they have to... They go 1, 2... 3, 4, and then they have to wait. They can't just immediately reply to an invade. Like, you have to wait a little bit. So there is that. That's reasonable. Werewolf can work on this also. Notably, no healing spas, and you have the disease tiles, so it's possible, you know, like, maybe a Russell map. Something like that. You got to keep those silly things in mind. We already talked about mechanicals. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, like, you can't send a flyer here to immediately get up here or try and sneak it up there. It's going to have to go through the disease tiles. Oh, no, I have to use my Hevos to defend? I mean, that's what it comes down to, but if you are limited to just Hevos... You're not just going to have 12 keys to crap out most of the time, you know what I mean? Or more than that, if you count Hevo 3.0. Point is that if you are committed in some other way, it's possible if your opponent takes the top, they can just go, hey, I'm going for it. And they just get you. I mean, if the choice is disease your guys or die, I guess you disease your guys. That happens on... Is it Diabolical? Whatever that one new disease map is from the last patch. I started with Werewolf as player 1 here. I mean, yeah, that's reasonable. Werewolf or Snowball. I guess you could start Jaws. Turn 1 Jaws. It's a 3-mover. There you go. I've said it before, I don't think there should be any more 3-movers. So I just, like, I refused. My brain didn't want to accept that Jaws was a 3-mover. Yeah, I mean, you're going to see Gravediggers. You're going to see Gravedigger plays. You could lock people out. There's a lot of ways you could build a castle here. I mean, even here, if you put a block there and force your opponent to, like, they have to loop around or something, like, this can be super awkward. Take middle, then go corner right, then attack hard after transform. I mean, that seems completely playable, Onda. For those of you with Werewolf. Imagine a 3-2 phobie. I really don't want to. Really don't want to. Yeah, a 3-3 should never happen. Or the thing is, for something like that to exist, it would have to be so bad that it's not even, like, it's just not even worth it. I mean, I presume they're talking about a 3-2 that's up all the time. Like, yeah, Snowball does that now, and technically Jar does that now. But I think the assumption here is that we're getting a Jar-esque phobie, but flipped, range 2, move 3, and puts out regular damage. I don't know if a line ranged phobie would be worse than Jar. With 3 move. I'm not sure how I'd feel about that. I'd have to think about it. But yeah, as far as this map goes, I know I'm being a broken record. I like where this is looking. I'm looking forward to this. I think there's some cool things that could happen on it. And I don't think it's just going to boil down to put all your mechanicals on the board. So our last new map is Rise to Stardom, and notably, it's not just disease tiles, we got poison tiles to go with these. Interestingly enough, all these maps, all of them have single spawn points. None of them have double spawn points. This is Bean's map. So Bean's map, for anybody who doesn't know, if you're watching this on YouTube later, there was a contest for submitting maps. Second contest of this kind. And chat's pointing out that this is Bean of Evil's map. So shout out to Bean. We'll have to see how this goes. I don't know if Bean had as much sadism in their heart as Miss Cha did when Miss Cha designed the Once lore. We'll see. Already off to a good start. We got 7, count them, 7 panic points. You can get to, let's see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you need a 3 mover to hit these. Presumably, we'll see something similar right off the bat for a lot of players. I don't know how this is going to do Heart Rush-wise. You have 1 clear path here and 1 pseudo-clear here because of the poison tile, but you could have like a mech range here and then a regular range here, and then also squeeze in a melee. Obviously, there's the Gravedigger into 1 key, which I wouldn't be surprised to see that as a common opener as well. This middle section is just going to be very, very strange. You do Gravedigger and 1 key to capture the middle if I'm player 1, I've not been player 2. Yeah, I mean, that seems completely reasonable. You can even send a 1 key here, you end up with a 1 key here, and then you have Gravedigger here. Think Burrow and Flight are better for mid? Possibly. I mean, that's not unreasonable. What's the cheapest Burrow phobie? A 4 cost, right? There's no 3 with Burrow. Yeah, I don't know how much value, now that DT says that, I don't know how much value the Gravedigger brings you long-term. I mean, you could, like, put a block here or something. Like here. So that way orange can't, or blue can't defend as easily. You know, like Gravedigger breaks this and then eventually rotates and then adds a block here. Maybe that's a thing. But I don't know that breaking these is all that valuable. The problem is, if you send a flyer that's not blinky, or you send a Burrow guy and they broke this obstacle, it's entirely possible that your guy just gets annihilated. Now, something as simple as Cassowary plus follow-up might be enough to kill it. Notably, if your opponent takes the middle, 1, 2, 3, Morty can be on these and just pop something that's here. I do like the idea of Burrow here. Big Dum Dum Chuck. 1, 2, 3. Or Jar, for that matter, on these points can target the heart relatively safely. 1, 2, 3. Except if you put a Jar here and they haven't represented Snowball, it can snipe it. The classic Maggie Morty combo. Does that count as classic? Has it grown to that stage yet? I mean, it can definitely happen. Honestly, Tooth Fairy to the middle, I'd have to do the math and see what the options are. But, like, Tooth Fairy to the middle might be very, very safe. And then you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Although you can get this point no matter what, because you send... Maybe that's what you do. You send Tooth Fairy. You send the 1 key here. Tooth Fairy, or the opposite of whichever way you're going to send the Tooth Fairy. Because then Tooth Fairy can double back. Oh, that's interesting. This is actually Bean's name for the map. I didn't know that. I guess we do have to point out that there are spas on the map also. They are kind of out of the way. It's a larger map, so maybe this is better. Like, you might have to actually make a choice to send something to the spa. It kind of feels like Innocuous is going to do the usual thing. Honestly, I wonder... Like, do you just shove with, like, a tractor and race? I hope it doesn't turn out this way, but I'm starting to get Moai vibes where, like, you can't defend. Or it's going to be incredibly difficult to defend. Now, Moai has blocks that make life more difficult. But, like, if you go down here and your opponent elects to go up here, they're not going to get back in time to defend. And neither are you. So I have to wonder how powerful is Heart Rushing on this map. I mean, it's a very short run distance from the vault, so you can defend much more readily than other maps, including Moai. You may need Terraform, though, coming back to that, because if you don't break these, or this for that matter, you're very limited on where you can lob from. Not very, but you are limited. Give me Baaaad Sheep and I'll do my best to defend. I think your opponent just kills you through Baaaad Sheep. Like, they just ignore the sheep and go heart. They just... Pew, pew, pew. Now, presumably, that's not going to be your only defender. There are some potentially super obnoxious Blom plays. Like, just crossing the map because you could hit this stuff. So maybe a Terraform that's, like, slowly whittling down these obstacles. And then set up a big Blom. Or even a smaller Blom across these. Trying to think what else would be good here. The fights seem pretty cramped. I do like the idea of Burrow and Flight, because you can stage, like, put a flyer here, and then it can supplement an invade that's coming across from here, because you can go to this tile, or even a Burrow that has capped the middle. You could have a Burrow here and then get to this tile and supplement. Whereas other stuff, either it's going to take 100 years to crack through everything, or it just can't get through because there isn't enough ways to make it happen. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There's a lot of interesting things in all 4 of these maps. There's a lot of things going on each of these maps. What do you think, Chad? What's your favorite out of these 4 so far? What one are you most excited to play on? Or what one do you hate? I think the one I'm least excited about is Transaction Declined. These 3, I think these 2 I'm probably most interested in, followed by Morbidity. But I think Transaction Declined is the one I'm least excited about. You love Rise of Stardom so far? Well, you can thank Bean. Shout out to Bean. I still wish they had something in-game, in-client, to signify that these are contest winner maps. Raise and Die is your favorite map. I have no idea what map that is. Like, none of these are even close. I guess Rise to Stardom. This is going to be interesting, chat. It's going to be very interesting. Kind of expect I'll have the most fun on this, but still uncertain how I should pronounce it. Yeah. I said Coime earlier. I don't know if that's true. I don't actually know what the pronunciation for this is, which is so dumb. I suggested a long time ago, like when we start the game and in the map, there'll be a map and the creators like Rise of Stardom by Beans of Evil. Yeah, people have been saying that since the first, and I've said it too in a number of videos since the first contest. Is there a map called Roundabout yet? Closest is Carousel. I don't know if you mean roundabout like a traffic circle, or if you're saying roundabout like another name for a carousel. I'm just excited to have new maps, chat. I really like the idea. I don't know why, but I feel good about these maps. Feel good about these maps. What did I get in the event VIP pass? I didn't get it yet. Plus, you couldn't have gotten it yet, like completed it. Still have like a month before it's finished. Yeah, chat, I think that does it for my initial thoughts on the maps. We'll, of course, have many, many more as we actually get into these. But let me know, YouTube, down in the comments, have you played on these? What do you like most about the maps? What do you hate? I'm very curious, because these are pretty cool. I just feel really good about this expansion, this patch, this update. As always, the Phobies team, I think, has done a great job. I may end up closing up shop early tonight, just because, as I said, I have to get up very early tomorrow. I'm actually going to miss tomorrow's stream and probably Sunday's stream. Why not open packs? I'm tired. I'm tired. I also, like I said, I have to get up real early because I have to do some traveling. I'm going to miss the next 2 days, which kind of works out because the patch broke all the replays. So thankfully there aren't too many replays that are going to get missed and then like risk them breaking. Unrelated fun fact, I unlocked Jammy Fish yesterday just in time to get dupes for it in the event rewards. Nice. Pack opening with Season next week? Possibly. The problem is that'll cut into game breakdowns. We'll see how many people submit game breakdowns. Like, I might have to do it, like, Friday or Saturday or something. It's actually less than that, Ozarius. At this point, it's, actually, no. Yeah, that's right. I had to think for a second. Because this is including not just, like, the actual travel time. It's getting to the airport and all that kind of stuff. Hey, Coime, thank you for the sub. Much appreciated. Chat, let's see some bees. I know you got channel points. Shout out to Coime for the subscription. We got Luffy's birthday. We got new subs. Welcome back to the party. Russell! Yeah! Bees! GG's! GG's! GG. Yeah, you remember when, like, every stream was, like, every 5 minutes, everybody's just spamming the shit out of bees? 4 months, Coime. Thank you. New maps look sweet. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Don't ask me why the activity feed only just now recognized that it was a Prime sub, but much appreciated. Much appreciated. Yeah, I will do the pack opening soon. I had mentioned before that I was waiting for the update. So we have 32. We could get a few packs, chat. We could get a few packs. How much... So here's the big question. I'm almost at level 92. Do we think we push into Puff, whose name I could not remember earlier? When I was talking about the Blom effects on Goon, like, I could not think of Puff's name. I'm expecting I get to, like, 97. That's my prediction. Should I do that as, like, a channel point reward thing? Or channel point, prediction, chat? Of what level we think we're going to do an over-under on what level I get to with 32,000 coffee? Somebody has to remind me when we do the pack opening, which will probably be next week. I will probably, like I said, have to do it Friday or Saturday. Just we'll keep an eye on how many people submit games. My bet is 93. I will at least reach level 93. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if I only get to 93. You need an enormous amount of XP. You need an enormous amount. I should really do a channel point prediction on how many new phobies I get. I think people would have fun with that one. I think people would have fun with that one. What do you think, Chad? What do you think? I mean, is Mummy really the most exciting one? Or is it Jaws? Are you more excited by Mummy or Jaws? I really hope this is good, but I kind of, like, the more I think about it, the more I think this guy sucks. Goon and Jaws? That's fair. I really thought there was only a 2-mover. At 2 moves, I really think this might be unplayable. Because it's like, I'm a worse Cerberus at that point. For me, the ones I like the most, for me to go from Goon, Snappy to Tooth Fairy. Interesting. Jaws is exciting, but Tooth Fairy will get used most often and most effectively once leveled. I think Tooth Fairy is going to be pretty good. I am looking forward to trying out Tooth Fairy. The fact that it's ranged is a big deal. I don't know why, but I thought it was going to be melee. I'm not super sold on Snappy, to be honest. It might be fine. I think maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. Like, what's Bo Mangle's base damage? Bo Mangles has 420 base damage. Wow. Okay. I don't know. The damage output on this is just so low. There's so many times where I had Unbearable, and I'm like, you just don't do enough damage, and this does less. Tooth Fairy currently does 500 death damage. Yeah, I saw that earlier when we were talking about it. The only reason I didn't bring it up is because, obviously, it's a bug. They're going to fix it. That happened before with another phobie. I don't remember what phobie it was. That did happen before. They'll correct it, and nobody will care. Gargles, that's what it was. Wait, Sizzle had that problem too? I don't remember that happening. I mean, I don't doubt it, but I just don't remember that happening. I forgot it was even dimensional, to be perfectly honest. It's interesting which palette swap phobies, although this is more than a palette swap because of the fire effect, which ones stay in their phobie tribe? You know, like, all the Hevos are mechs. But Baby Snakey and Sizzle are undead and dimensional. It's just kind of interesting. Sizzle took normal poison damage too instead of 150% damage increase. That's weird. Because I was going to say, like, oh, well, maybe it's a super dimensional. But then if it's taking regular stuff, then it doesn't count as a dimensional? I don't know. That's weird. I wonder whether the poison effect controls. You could code it multiple ways. Like, poison knows that poison does extra dimensional, or it could be dimensional says, hey, I'm dimensional poison, you got to give me more damage. From a coding side of it, I'm curious which way it works. Devs just seem to have tons of problems with the dimensionals. I mean, that's a recurring problem that we've seen. I don't know if it's quantity-wise a lot. I mean, Glob is also a dimensional, but Glob, if it was monster, would also be problematic. It's just because it does such weird things. It's probably why we haven't seen a second Glob, right? Gotcha, okay, I don't know. I don't know, Chad. I'm pretty excited about this one. I think there's some cool stuff in this. I think... For me, I think Mummy is probably the most interesting. The idea of producing this, however, I think this is probably going to be Magical Christmas Land a lot. That being said, 800 damage is just an enormous amount. So even if you just a tractor, hit it with a couple things, and then Mummy, it's like, okay, you're probably murdering whatever gets pulled, and then you're profiting bodies. However, those bodies die to an imposition jar on level, that is. I'm looking forward to it, chat. I am. We'll see what we pull from the from the pack opening. There's still a bunch of phobies like I've never used Dial. There's still a bunch of phobies that need to get used. Yeah, that's the way I look at it, Ozarius, is that they're going to be meat shields. I'm not expecting I'm going to create a zombie army, or a mummy army for that matter, and march across the map and kill my opponent with impunity. What's going to happen is they have to, like, you have to respect the mini-me's, right? You can't just ignore them. So as long as you stalemate the map such that Mummy can get the value, you'll be able to slow push, hypothetically. I could see a world in which Mummy is just not that effective. I don't think it'll be as bad as Wuffalo will, but I could see a world in which Mummy isn't actually that good. Because these are 1-1. Like, your opponent has to walk into them or they're never hitting anything. And they're obviously dying to anything that can touch them. Perfect for AoE and line attack. Yeah, I mean, that may also be a serious drawback, is your opponent can Blom your team, or Klepto your team, or Hevo. Like, Hevo, I mean, fire the anti-mummy, right? Hevo 3.0 is going to, like... We're going to... Things that you can't say on a family-friendly stream. But Hevo's going to be very happy, we'll say. To see a mummy show up, that is. Alright, chat. Grimes may be a potential counter to Mummy. I could see it, but it depends on where the mummies spawn. Remember, they have to kill your guy for you to even justify hitting it. It's a cocktail party and all the mini-me's are invited? Exactly. Yeah, more guests. Look, you got more people coming to the party. You got to make more cocktails. I mean, that's just the way it works, right? You don't want to be that kind of host. You run out of booze or something. All right, chap. I got to call it a night. I got to get up early. I'm most likely going to miss tomorrow's stream and Sundays. Maybe I'll be back in time for a late Sunday stream. We'll play it by ear. If I'm back, maybe we do the pack opening then. Because then it'll just be like a shorter, quick stream. We'll definitely have a stream on Monday, barring catastrophe. And we'll go from there. But chat, I'm very much looking forward to this patch. Let me know how people feel about it, because I'm curious what people's thoughts are on it. But that's going to do it for tonight. So as always, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And Black Lives Matter.